You ever watch a spy movie where the villain technically never gives the order? Like they don't say do the thing, they just say it will be unfortunate if something happened. And suddenly, poof, something happens. No fingerprints, no paper trail, just vibes. That's the vibe we're unpacking today. Plausible deniability. Because here's the trick. Harm doesn't need to be loud to be effective. It only needs to be confusing. Confusion is underrated as a weapon. And it shows up everywhere. In geopolitics. Those aren't our troops. Until later they are. In institutions. That's just a bad apple. In workplaces. It was just a joke. Relax. Online. I never threatened you. I just kept showing up. So this episode is not spy trivia. It's the blueprint of how power stays clean while the target gets messy. And the wild part, your nervous system doesn't care if the threat is provable. It only cares if the environment feels unsafe. Welcome to episode 2, Plausible Deniability. Plausible deniability is basically this. The ability to deny responsibility because there isn't enough clear evidence to pin it on you. And I can't say that word. And the denial sounds believable. Not I'm innocent, but can you prove I'm guilty and my explanations sound normal enough that people will shrug and move on? In intelligence and statecraft, plausible deniability isn't an accident. It's a design feature. Operations are deliberately structured so decisions makers can credibly say, I didn't authorize that, even when they clearly benefit from the outcome. Responsibility gets diffused, paperwork gets messy, chains of command gets fuzzy. The fuzziness is the point. So plausible deniability functions like an accountability firewall. It's legal insulation, it's narrative insulation, it's social insulation. Now, let's zoom out for a second. To me, whether you're the Central Intelligence Agency or Osama bin Laden, the moral category doesn't magically change just because the branding does. If you're conducting covert experiments, destabilizing communities, engineering coups, or blowing up buildings, if your goal is to instill fear in a carefully selected population at scale, you're engaging in terrorism. The difference isn't what is being done. The difference is how it's framed. One side craves spectacle and claims ownership. The other fear is loud, branded, and intentional. On the other side, they work in silence. No logos, no press releases, just effects, confusion, instability, fear without fingerprints. And this is where plausible deniability stops being a dry legal technicality and starts looking like a psychological technology. Because it doesn't just protect the actor, it destabilizes the target. If you don't know who did it, or whether it even happened, or whether you're allowed to say it happened, you can't organize, you can't retaliate, you can't even narrate your own reality with confidence. Confusion becomes the force multiplier. And that to me is the quiet evolution of terror in the modern world. No louder bombs, but cleaner hands, and a population left arguing with itself about whether the smoke they smell is even real. I want to add something personal here, because this is where the concepts stop being abstract for me. When I talk to my therapist, it's actually very hard to explain my distress. If I describe things one by one, isolated, ambiguous, technically normal interactions, I sound unreasonable. Each event on its own doesn't raise alarms. Nothing is dramatic, nothing is provable. but my nervous system doesn't experience them one at a time. Taken together in sequence, they signal something very different. You are not safe. That's where the terror lives. That's where the damage actually happens. So I had developed a way to talk about this kind of stuff without eroding my own credibility. A way to raise a flag without overclaiming. What I do is call it a phenomenon. I'm not saying there's a conspiracy. I'm not saying I know the intent. I'm saying there is a pattern of ambiguous actions experienced repeatedly and in sequence that is causing real distress in my body. And that distinction matters because plausible deniability works the same way at the personal level as it does at the geopolitical level. If every act is deniable, explainable, or dismissible in its own, the person experiencing the pattern is left holding the fear while being unable to prove why they feel it. The terror isn't in a single act. It's in the accumulation and the confusion that follows. Covert action and cutouts. How deniability is built. In intelligence work, especially with agencies like CIA, the goal of a covert action is often very simple. Make something happen without looking like you did it. Not secretly for 5 minutes, secretly forever. Or at least long enough that no one can pin it on you. That's where the cutouts come in. A cutout is basically a middleman. Instead of the government or entity acting directly, it uses layers, proxies, third parties, contractors, ally groups, or unofficial actors. Each layer creates distance. So instead of we did this, it becomes they did that. We only supported them. We didn't know what they were doing. We didn't know what they were going to do. That wasn't authorized. Every steps add plausible confusion. The result is a chain of responsibility that's technically intact, but practically useless. Everyone is connected, but no one is accountable. If you try to follow the trail, it dissolves into paperwork, denials, and cross wires. This is not a bug, this is the feature. And when that kind of fog exists, accountability can't breathe. There's no clear actor to confront, no clear decision to challenge, no single hand on the lever, just outcomes, real ones, without an owner. So let me put this into everyday terms. For a while, every time I walk out the door, someone will suddenly turn on a leaf blower. Nothing about that action is illegal. No single person can be identified as responsible. There's no clear order, no visible coordinator, no document I can point to and say this is where it came from. Each instance on its own is meaningless, normal, deniable. But when it happens repeatedly in sequence at moments that matter, my nervous system doesn't experience it as random. It experiences as a pattern. As patterned. And that's the point. The entity responsible for the effect, the distress, never has to appear. The action is fragmented across people, timing, coincidence, and plausible explanations. Responsibility stays hidden, even though the impact is real. That's how deniability works at the ground level. No single act carries the weight. The weight lives in the accumulation. When has it been used in the past? Okay. Let me see if I can say this word. Cointelpro. What deniable repression looks like in real life. One of the cleanest US examples of this is Cointelpro, a counterintelligence program run by the FBI for decades. On paper, it was described as an investigation and national security. In practice, it was about disruption. Groups were infiltrated, leaders were discredited, movements were quietly fractured from the inside. Nothing looked extreme if you examined it piece by piece. Each action could be explained away as routine law enforcement. But the people inside those movements felt the full pattern long before the public ever did. That's deniability pattern. Official story, investigation, safety, prevention. Actual effect, confusion, infighting, paralysis. Public perception, nothing to see here. For years, outsiders couldn't see it because no one had the whole picture. Cointelpro only became undeniable after internal documents leaked. Papers, memos, instructions, proof of intent. And that's the nightmare scenario for any deniable system, when the fog lifts and the pattern becomes visible. Until then, the people experiencing it look paranoid and the institution looks clean. Everyday versions: corporate, workplace, and interpersonal. Scale it down. Let's scale it down for a minute. Quotes like, "I didn't say that. You misheard. You're too sensitive. That wasn't the intent. Nobody else took it that way. It's not illegal. It's not against policy." All of that is just operating under the line, so the target looks dramatic for reacting. It flips the spotlight. The person harmed becomes the problem because the harm isn't cleanly observable. Effects on the nervous system of a victim. Plausible deniability is brutal because it creates a very specific kind of stress. Uncertainty plus ambiguous threat. A clear threat is horrible, but at least your brain can label it. With an ambiguous threat, your brain can't file it away, so it keeps running scans. It stays in this weird anticipation mode, watching, predicting, double-checking everything, because unresolved uncertainty makes the nervous system act like it's on duty 24/7. And I have a lot of personal experience with that. So yeah, the nervous system can start looking like at conspiracy theories, not because you're crazy, but because your brain is doing what it's designed to do: reduce uncertainty and keep you alive. What that can look like: hypervigilance, you're always scanning; high arousal, hard to calm down; sleep getting wrecked, your body won't fully stand down; mental overload, thinking gets harder, decisions get sloppy; emotional swings or numbness, fight, flight, or shutdown. People living in this kind of chronic ambiguity can end up looking irrational from the outside because their nervous system is cooked. Not weak, cooked. And when the harm is social, exclusion, smears, subtle sabotage, people dismiss it because there's no single clean incident to point it at. It's like death by 1,000 paper cuts. But everyone keeps asking, where's the knife? The body keeps receipts. Interesting nervous system facts. Your body can kick into a stress response before you're consciously decided anything is wrong. Wait, let me say that again. Your body can kick into a stress response before you've consciously decided anything is wrong. A lot of threat detection happens in the background. Fast, automatic, and a little rude about it. So even if you tell yourself this is probably nothing, your body may still tighten muscles, change your breathing, speed up your heart rate, start scanning the room. That's why chronic ambiguity is such a slow poison. You can't logic your way out of a loop if your environment keeps feeding your nervous system uncertainty. Bonus mini fact. Slow controlled breathing is one of the few manual levers you can pull on purpose that can nudge your stress system towards calmer settings. Not magic, just biology. According to Sakaro, oh my god, eat out, whatever, however you say that, 2018, I should have picked another source, but it is what it is. Frontiers Review on Slow Breathing plus Autonomic Emotional Regulation. Your brain is a drama queen, but your lungs can be the therapist. Counteracting, practical and ethical. Plausible deniability survives on fog. Countermove, turn fog into structure. Counteracting 1. Convert chaos into a pattern log. If something thrives in ambiguity, your job is to turn it into data. Timestamp incident logs, date, time, place, what happened, screenshots, plus preserved messages, exact phrases used, quotes, not summaries, witnesses, who was present, neutral language, or observable facts are bigger than motives. Single incidents are easy to hand wave. Patterns are harder to miss. Counteracting 2. Speak in credibility language. 2 channels always. Number 1. Emotional processing. Private, messy, human, journal, therapist, trusted person. Official reporting, clean, boring, specific, facts, dates, quotes, receipts. Informal complaints, don't mind read motives, don't psychoanalyze. Lead with what's observable, keep it painfully specific. Boring wings, boring is believable. Counteracting 3. Nervous system harm reduction. This is strategy, not self-care. Protect sleep like it's your job. Move daily. Even a 10-minute walk counts. Control breathing. The quickest manual lever you have. Reduce stimulants when possible. Co-regulation. One safe human still a power-up. Goal. Keep executive function online, because when your nervous system crashes, your planning brain goes offline, and that's when life gets expensive. Counteracting 4. Reduce exposure to deniable zones. Deniable harm thrives in places where there's no record and no witnesses. Private conversations, unrecorded interactions, vague moderation platforms, power-skewed environments where someone can quietly punish you. Countermoves. Keep important interactions in writing when possible. Prefer group settings / witnesses. Route issues through channels that create records, email, ticket systems, HR forms. Follow up verbal convos with just confirming that we discussed. Quick reality check. If you ever record audio, check your local consent laws first. Don't hand anyone a legal escape hatch. Now reflections to tie it all together. Plausible deniability is the reason powerful systems can do harm while looking respectable. It's harm designed to survive scrutiny because it's built to leave no clean evidence trail. It's the gap between what's experienced, what's provable, what's socially acceptable to believe. When harm is deniable, the victim reality gets treated like an opinion. And once your reality is downgraded to just a feeling, you become the story, not what happened to you. Victims get punished twice, one for the original harm, and two, disbelief plus minimization plus credibility attacks. The opposite of plausible deniability isn't paranoia, it's accountability architecture, logs, transparency, oversight, paper trails, and consequences, systems that make harm expensive. If you want to understand power, modern power, don't just ask, is it true? Ask, is it deniable? Because deniable harm is the kind that scales. I think plausible deniability is one of the most civilized forms of cruelty humans ever invented. It lets people do damage while keeping their hands clean. And it lets everyone around them pretend their conscience is clean as well. Plausible deniability isn't just secrecy. It's secrecy engineered to make the target look unreliable. Until then, breathe, document, verify. See you next time.